Ken Rosenthal leads the league in information, and as Heidi mentioned, Kenny, very busy these days. So, Kenny, this new posting agreement is here, and MLB Network's Joel Sherman was the first to report. But lay it out for us, what we can expect.
Right. Joel did have most of the details, and the key thing for fans is that the owners now must ratify this, expected to be a formality. That is expected to take place on December 1st. Ohtani would be posted almost immediately after that, a 21-day window under the agreement reached last night. So he will be signed somewhere by Christmas time. And we've talked about this for quite some time now. Basically, every team out there has a shot because he's not going to go for huge dollars. He can go for a maximum of $3.535 million. That's what the Rangers have to spend. What this actually means as far as the agreement is concerned is this. The current agreement, or the old agreement, takes effect and stays in effect for one more year. $20 million posting fee to Ohtani's previous team, the Nippon Fighters. As of next year, you can see some of these details coming in. The bottom one I'm going to talk about first. Starting next offseason, players can be posted only between November 1st and December 5th. That was really important to the Players Union because the previous proposal said the window could be from November 1st to February 1st, and the union's concern was a disruption of the of the free agent market. Now, the thing you're seeing right above that, the percentage of contract value received by posting club beginning next offseason, that's a little complicated. That's for players 25 and over, and that was the exchange made in this new deal for the Japanese giving up the right to pull back and withdraw a post if they didn't like the offer. So this is how it's going to work now. And you saw there two things that the union wanted in this deal, the one going forward from 2018 to 20, and they're going to get those, and it's an improvement on the deal that MLB had previously negotiated with NPB, the Japanese league. That's why we had this delay. They wanted a better deal. They got the better deal. Ohtani comes. Peace and love and understanding for all.
Kenny, help me understand this, because I'm not sure if I'm totally getting all of the details right. Shohei Ohtani is 23 and a half years old. If he waits till he's 25, he becomes an unrestricted free agent, correct?
Correct.
Now, at that point, 25 unrestricted, he could go out there to the open market and maybe command 100 to 200 million 2 years from now.
Yes, that is exactly right, Dave. And so, that is the question you're about to ask me, I can anticipate, is the question that really everyone in baseball has been asking. Why is this kid doing this at this time when he can make so much money later? We don't know his exact reasoning. He's kind of an enigma. It doesn't say a whole lot. But at the same time, it seems that there are two reasons here. One, he simply wants to play in the major leagues. And two, money is clearly not his driving motivation. And in time, he will make plenty of money if he, of course, comes over and succeeds. He'll be treated, as all players under the international bonus pool system are, as a minor league free agent. And then he'll be controlled by a team for 6 years. Now, another question people are asking, okay, he's going to sign this cheap deal now. How quickly can you get him long term? It's a good question. There is no timetable on that, and conceivably a team could sign him 6 months from now, 3 months from now, and say, listen, we want this guy long term, we're going to give him this deal. The issue that MLB would have with that is if that deal breaks the precedent or is beyond the range of deals seen previously. Most famous of those, of course, Evan Longoria, when he signed basically the time he joined the Rays long term. I would say, though, that if Ohtani is a success, there is no precedent for him. A two-way player, a guy who maybe hits 25 home runs and has a 3 ERA on the mound. So it will be really interesting to see how this plays out. But at the same time, the team will be in no rush because, of course, he is under control for 6 years.
So if he comes over, where do you think is the best fit for him? Would you think it'd be an American League team where you have a DH or in a National League team? And what would be the benefits either way?
I would think an American League team simply because of the schedule. If he wants to hit and pitch, and that is something he has stated in the indication that he wants to do, then it's easier to do in the American League. If you're a DH, you don't have to play the field. You can DH, Sunday, Monday, take a day off, pitch Wednesday, day off Thursday, DH again Friday and Saturday, something along those lines. That's relatively easy to do in the National League. If you wanted to hit as well, he'd have to play a position. So you would think American League teams have the advantage, but we're talking about a kid who just defied our expectations by saying he wants to come for $3.5 million or less when he could earn, as you said, $100 million or more by waiting 2 years. So I don't know that we can put him in a box of any kind. At the same time, the question has been raised, okay, what will teams do? Will teams allow him to play two ways? Well, if that's his desire and his condition to sign, guess what? They'll allow it. And teams that we have seen over the years have become more creative, more open to new ideas, and I would expect Shohei Ohtani will be a test case, as Brandon McKay is with Tampa Bay, of a two-way player.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like he gets to control the process. I mean, if the team's not going to let him do both, he ain't going there.
That's right.
Basically, the situation. I think the other big story, Ken, is the penalties handed down to the Atlanta Braves for the international signing scandal, so to speak. Just take us through what Atlanta is looking at here.
Well, we all expected the penalties to be harsh. I don't know that anyone expected them to be quite this harsh. And what we're talking about is the loss of 13 international prospects, 12 from Latin America, 1 from Korea. You can see the total of $15 million in signing bonuses that they had committed, the Braves had, to these players. That amounts not to just a loss of talent, but a fine of some sorts. You paid that $15 million, and now it's essentially gone. The investment's gone. You see the restrictions on the signings going forward. Loss of a 2018 third-round draft pick for some shenanigans in the draft that the Braves had pulled. And then, in what was stunning news to a lot of people as well, former GM John Coppolella placed on the permanently ineligible list. That's the list that includes Shoeless Joe Jackson and Pete Rose, you're banned for life, and former special assistant Gordon Blakely suspended for 1 year. So let's put this in perspective a little bit. The Braves, we know, had the top-ranked farm system in the majors, or at least one of the top 3 or so, before this. This clearly hurts their farm system. The biggest player they lost, Kevin Maitan, a 17-year-old infielder that they had signed for $4.25 million, was one of many talented kids that, well, basically were forfeited because of the Braves' wrongdoing. So their farm system takes a hit. From the other team's perspective, the teams that now have a chance to sign all of these players, they are free agents under the international bonus pool. So they're not pure free agents. They're subject to the same restrictions that Ohtani is subject to. The little difference here is that teams will get an extra $200,000 if they sign one of these players added to their pool. Gives the teams a little bit more breathing room to sign these players who just are becoming available. And the other part of this is they can use money to sign one of these guys, not just from the current pool, 2017-18, but also 2018-19. So they've got a choice of where they want to spend the money. Again, create some flexibility for teams if they want to pursue these guys. And what's interesting, guys, is how it might affect Ohtani or not. A team, for instance, provided that it isn't in the penalty box for previously going over the signing limit, they could conceivably sign Ohtani for 2017-18 money and Maitan for 2018-19 money. It's possible they do that. It's possible they look at Maitan as a fallback to Ohtani. There are all kinds of options that become available here. Big hit to the Braves, a little bit of a boon to the rest of the industry because they have the chance to get these players, and also a boon to Maitan and others. These guys, a lot of them signed for $1 million or more. Maitan for $4.25 million, as I said. And now they get another free ring of the piggyback.
Ken, you brought up a great point about losing $15 million of investments. I believe there's also a fine for the Braves because they've gone over the international limit. Is that true?
Right. That was part of what, it's not a penalty, but that had been the case previously, Dave. They had gone over the money, so at that point they have to pay extra. It's like the draft when you pay an extra amount of money for exceeding your limit. So, yes, they had paid that as well, and that too amounts essentially to a fine going forward, part of their fine.
You know, just listening to this whole thing, it kind of reminds me of all the scandals that we hear in college basketball, right? And then the GM gets suspended for life, and Gordon Blakely is suspended for a year. At some point, do these guys have carte blanche to just do these things without anyone else in that organization knowing?
That's a good question, and no one seems to know the answer to that. Clearly, MLB's investigation found no one else in the Braves organization up above Coppolella guilty of any wrongdoing. Doesn't mean they didn't have some knowledge, doesn't mean that there wasn't some lack of oversight here. I think it's certainly safe to say that. They couldn't prove that there was any knowledge, MLB, and MLB goes by the letter of the law here. They're not going to suspend someone for something they can't prove. At the same time, this is an industry-wide problem, and it's worth noting. The Braves, what they did was unprecedented in scope. It was beyond the pale, beyond anything that MLB had seen before. But MLB has freely admitted that this goes on with other teams and other players. And the good thing here, if there is a good thing, is that it sends a clear message to other clubs. Hey, stop it. Stop doing in Latin America the things you've done before, the things that are illegal under our current system. And I would like to see also MLB step up its investigation of some of the other teams that it is looking at. Because we do know the Braves are not the only club that has done this. Now, Braves fans could say, well, look, why do we get singled out? You get singled out because you did it worse and you got caught. Right. Not smart. But there are other teams too, and let this be a message to them that the shenanigans have got to stop.
And Kenny, I know the shenanigans have been happening in the international market for decades. A lot of things going on to move players, hide players. And for that reason, MLB opened up an office in Santo Domingo, I believe about 8 or 9 years ago, to help kind of regulate or oversee some of these things going on. But with all of this happening, do you see it kind of moving towards a international draft?
This is something MLB has wanted for quite some time now and hasn't gotten it in the collective bargaining agreements. In my opinion, Dave, even if they get it, it's going to be awfully tough to implement. And you got to keep in mind, all these countries have different regulations, different systems that they go by. For MLB to make them all uniform and bring them under one umbrella, that would not be easy to do. Yet, it is something that MLB wants to do and certainly wants to attempt to do. And in part, a large part of the reason is to eliminate the Buscones, who are the middlemen, the agents who serve as almost trainers to the players, and finally take control of the international market, or at least the way the players are distributed. That would be helpful in terms of these rules, certainly, but it's a long way off. The CBA just got signed. It goes through 2021. I don't see an international draft happening anytime soon.
All right, the good stuff from Ken.
Oh, Fran, one more thing.
Oh, go ahead.
This is breaking news.
Yes. Oh.
Got a call yesterday from one H. Reynolds in Oregon. He called to inform me in the middle of all this that trust him. He's got some swag from Oregon he's bringing back and he'll be wearing on our very fine program. I know the viewers were worried about H's wardrobe. Don't worry. He's reinforced it.
Big surprise there. Ken's also going to be back.
That's only because he got it for free, by the way.
Yes, that is the exact price he paid. Nothing.